So I am here again with Jeff, the Sedona Creek Talk guy. The guy that says what?
At Sedona Creek Talk, things may not always be what they seem.
Really? So
Yes,
we're going to find out whether you have figured that out or
We're going to find out, by golly. Yeah. And we're not down in the water. Greg
No.
Dr. Frog feels way more stable here.
You would think a frog would be at home in the water,
You
right?
would think so. That's why I brought you down there.
You know, somebody said that that they wished I hadn't used frogs because frog was some kind of a deep state, you know, or dark.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought about it the other day, and I have this stuccoed homemade frog. Okay?
Yeah.
And I asked my grandmother for it 40 years ago.
Wow.
And I remembered seeing it propping the door open into their dining room when I was still crawling.
Wow.
And I thought, you know, I've had frogs for a long
time. Yeah. Well, you folks, you can't see it, but there's a giant one in his yard,
Yeah,
right? It's about this big.
And I have real toads,
Yeah.
and they leave little markers. And you know their favorite place to leave their little markers?
Where?
Is right in front of the door.
Nice, yeah. They're letting you know who the real frog is.
Greetings from the toad.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so you've been giving me a hard time, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And so we're going to do a little talk about Donald J. You know who Donald J is? All right.
Yeah.
Shoot at me, man.
So I'm on the Trump train, okay? Or let's say I have been on the Trump train, and after the show we're going to find out, am I still riding the Trump train? So I was a hook, line, and sinker guy, and I'll admit it. I thought it was great, you know, being a Gen X guy and a Second Amendment guy and growing up in Eastern Washington State. This guy, he'd swear he'd say the shit once in a while at a rally or something. I thought, man, that's what I want to see. And guys my age like that stuff, you know. And so I got on the train, and we rode the train into the first year and rode it into the second year, and well, things started to be very noticeably. The train ride wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. Hey, Greg, I think Trump did great on immigration.
Yeah. Well, certainly when he came down the escalator, and I'm going to have more to say about this, he hit the points that every conservative wanted to hear perfectly.
Yeah.
And people thought he was absolutely nutcase. The mainstream media thought he was nutcase for even talking like that. I mean, he talked about rapists, you know, and the rest of this stuff.
Yeah.
It was pretty awful language.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in terms of being hardcore, in your face, I'm going to take care of immigration, it was a perfect response. And you have to respect the fact that he either truly believed it or it was, I'm going to set these out, either truly believed it or it was good talking points.
Yeah.
So let's look at the record.
Yeah, well,
So,
I mean, from what I can tell, now you, Dr. Frog's been to, I couldn't believe it. He went to New Mexico, he went to the border. I recalled when he did it. Some of you may have watched some of the shows. He went down there and verified that the wall is not being put up. I can tell, sorry, Greg, what I can tell is if there is anything that has been put up, it's been replacing old rusty wall that need fixed anyway.
So let's look at the wall.
Yeah.
I looked at it, what I wanted to do, because I was getting conflicting reports. There were conservatives that say, rah, rah, everything's happening.
Yep.
The Q folks, which we'll talk about at the end. There were others that, you know, and Trump on and on said, I'm going to put $6 billion, and that turned into $1 billion, and I'm going to turn the Pentagon on, and that turned into nothing, and I'm going to fix miles and miles, and I've got a prototype that's in San Diego, and I'm going to do all of this. So I went to Deming, New Mexico.
I remember.
And I looked at what was there, what had been built, and the open areas that had not been adequately responded to. There's barbed wire fence. If you know anything about riding a horse, there's barbed wire fence there.
I got a scar on my face from a kid right here.
That the rancher
Yeah.
said his grandfather put up 50, 60 years ago. And that's all that was holding back.
Yeah.
And there were about 18 miles west of Deming, and the first 3, 4, 5 miles was this 18-foot Trump fence. And then there was a bunch of stuff that was about 2 feet tall,
Really?
and it was 4x4, 3x3 square steel pipe.
Were they keeping frogs out?
Yeah, well, you get, a 5-year-old could get over it.
Yeah. Right.
Theoretically, it was keeping cars from crossing, and then the border patrolman was at the end of that, looking toward Deming, and we had a long conversation with him. And behind him was the barbed wire fence.
Yeah.
And, they patrolled it every couple, 3, 4, 5 days, but they didn't keep track of it. And while I was there, a helicopter came over, and they actually patrolled during the day, a couple times a day with the helicopter. But the fence that they were going to replace was not the barbed wire. The fence that they were going to replace was not the empty stuff. There are places in the more wilderness areas, both in California, some in Arizona, and in New Mexico, that have no fence at all.
Right.
I mean, they're no man's land.
Yep.
And they didn't replace those fences. They didn't put 18-foot fences up there. And if you've looked at it, I may find the clip of the video showing the Mexicans or the illegals or whatever you want to call them climbing up over those. It takes a ladder, and away you go.
Trump even admits, they can get over them, but once they get, it slows them down.
Well, the whole point of the matter is that, and this border patrolman said this that day that we were there. I said, you guys are watching the asylum seekers, and you're totally loaded up on it, and all of the border crossing stops, the highway stops, were closed, so they weren't even checking cars.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, all of us are taking care of the asylum seekers. Now, this is 2 years ago when that was happening.
When it was an influx,
but we were getting 800,000 a year or $1.5 million a year equivalent asylum seekers, and I saw hundreds of them come through. I saw the Greyhound buses that came and got them. I saw, the truck stop where they stopped. There were 5, 6, 7 buses a day.
Yeah.
They processed 400 people a day out of Little Deming, and they were doing it out of their fairgrounds.
Yeah.
They had a big Quonset sitting in the fairgrounds, and they were doing it out of there. And those asylum seekers, you could say, well, all right, well, those guys are an exception, but the asylum seekers, first of all, they came in, and none of them had walked 1,500 miles. I mean, they had street shoes, they had flats, they had pumps, they had flip-flops.
Yeah.
There was nobody with hiking boots. There was nobody that looked like they'd been on a 1,500-mile trek.
Yes.
Or 1,000 or 500. They didn't bring water. They didn't have backpacks. They got dumped a couple miles and said, go over there, cross the border. So they were transported up there. And all they had to do was say, we're seeking asylum because Guatemala or Ecuador or Venezuela or wherever, Honduras, wherever it was, they're political exiles. We had to take them. We had to let them in with family. We theoretically, and here's the trick, and this is something Trump has not done, is that they were supposed to, as asylum seekers, pursue their legal rights as an asylum seeker.
Right.
It isn't just you cross the border and then you get to 7 years, become a citizen. You have to legitimize.
There's a court date, right? Yeah.
And what they gave them, what all of them have to do is within 30 days, whether they stay in New Mexico or they go to Massachusetts, and most of them were going in buses east and west, and then they were catching stuff north. So they were going to Minneapolis, they're Massachusetts, Wisconsin, Seattle.
Picking apples in Washington State. Yes, sir.
They were all over. And they were supposed to, within 30 days, go to a federal courthouse and file for their asylum. You know what percentage of them do that?
I mean, when you're down at Home Depot, waiting to go do some labor, you don't have time to do that, Greg. Come on now,
Well, most of those guys are not doing that because they're getting, a family of 4 might be getting $3,800 a month. And 4% were filing asylum papers. Everybody else we just let in. And because they're asylum seekers, they were covered by, the food stamps, what's the PIC program, the subsidized housing, the free housing, the
Well,
utilities.
how about DACA? I mean,
Well, all right, so you got DACA. He said he was
Yeah.
going to do something about DACA.
Yep,
How's
yep.
that work?
well, he kept throwing it back, saying, "Congress, do your job. Senate, do your
He
job."
also said, "I'll trade for it."
yeah,
He
they
offered
had
it
nothing
as
to
a
do.
trade
Give me a
deal.
little wall. We'll do that. Yeah, yeah.
That didn't happen.
Didn't happen. Still hasn't happened. By the way,
He's got Jared that is working on this immigration plan, and DACA is included in it. So Jared, the liberal Democrat, tied in with the Chabad Lubavitch folks that want to destroy the country, are the Zionists that want to destroy the country, is trying to get more people in here. And then you've got the H1N1, H1N2 visas.
Yep.
Trump wanted more of those because we need technology, which is a globalist response.
Yes.
Which instead of saying, we're going to cut down on the H1N1s and we're going to train 50,000 or 20,000 guys a year, guys and women, I'm not trying to be sexist, for high-tech stuff, so that we don't need these folks.
Yeah.
These are $40,000, $50,000, $70,000 jobs. Why are we bringing guys from India and Pakistan and Indonesia and Romania here when we have colleges and universities all over that supposedly would do
Greg,
it?
how about you remember, if you guys remember, right when he got elected, ICE, he used to say, "We love our ICE agents." Remember? And they were going around, and the left was freaking out. They wanted to get rid of. Remember, they wanted to abolish ICE, right? Well, I think that was optics. I think it was. They went around. They got a few people. They did a few things. You don't hear about that anymore. And that has to do
Where
with
are the ICE guys?
removing the illegals, right? Yeah, the ICE guys
Well, all right,
disappeared.
so-
You don't hear about the ICE guys anymore.
So the agents that we talked to in New Mexico were totally overwhelmed, and of course some of that was short term because of the asylum stuff.
Yeah.
But they admit, first of all, they have no way of covering the border. They have no adequate way of doing it.
Yeah.
They don't have adequate electronics. They don't have cameras in those no man's lands. They
Right.
don't have guys actively monitoring. And they had what I think they call them coyotes. There were National Guard guys or retired guys or independents that were watching, and they would call in. Well, the border guys finally said, "Hey, don't bother."
Right. We can't get
Because
to you.
we can't get there.
Right.
So
For a whole nother show, and we're going to do this on another show, I lived down in Maricopa, Arizona, in Pinal County, and the Tohono O'odham Indian Reservation is 400. Well, it's a couple hundred miles north and about 80 miles on the Mexican border, and they dump out right at Interstate 8, where you take the highway over to San Diego from Casa Grande, Arizona, and that Indian reservation lets these people walk 200 miles all the way up into Pinal County, just south of Phoenix, and they pop out. Well, I happen to live there, folks, in the desert. I had 3.5 acres, a house kind of like Greg has here. And we're going to do that on another show. I'm here to tell you, I fed them, I watered them. They'd come begging at the door. They'd pull me over.
Guys, most of them were Mexican, and most of them were hard workers, and most of them actually did the walking.
Yeah.
The asylum group got Soros money, Soros cell phones, Soros outfits.
Well, yes. So there's
Soros
two
transport.
groups, right? Well,
Yeah.
there's 3 groups. There's the people that are mules that are bringing drugs, and those were a lot of them that were coming to my house. They busted them at Pinal County Sheriff.
Sex and child trafficking.
Well, that as
slave
well. I
trafficking.
mean, they had spotters up on mountaintops watching, and
Oh,
they'd
yeah.
get them water and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
So that was the drug people. There are the people that when in the 80s, when my father built golf courses, Alfonso Jacas from Torreon, Mexico, stayed on our couch. They were just coming over and working, and they'd go back. And, it was kind of good back then. That was all we really had.
I think the Mexican people I've met here are great people.
They really are.
Hard workers.
Absolutely.
But now here's the deal with the asylum guys, is they don't speak English. We don't expect them to.
No.
They don't speak Spanish. It's not Mexican, it's Spanish, right? They don't speak Spanish. They speak any one of 30 indigenous languages. We're not going to get anything out of them. The common liberal comment is, well, they'll become workers and they'll be taxpayers and the rest of that. Well, you can't take somebody that's 35 years old that has no skills, that didn't even know how to use a bathroom when they got here.
Yeah.
And they're
When they have a bowel movement, they put the toilet paper in the garbage can, right?
I'm not going there. All right,
trust me.
So that's all we need to do.
All right, immigration's done. Okay.
It seems to me that if you were going to give a scorecard for this, what would you give him?
I think that on immigration, it would be
This is the number one issue.
Man, I'd have to say we got a D. I'm going to put a D down on that.
I'll
Yeah.
put an F because I don't
all right.
think he did anything. All right, so
I'm on the Trump train, remember? So here, how about he was going to end wars? We're going to bring everybody from Syria, everybody in Afghanistan, everybody in Iraq, all home.
needless wars. Okay.
But he did, didn't he? He brought them out of Syria.
You know how many he allegedly brought out?
How many?
Well, round one, he was going to bring a bunch of troops.
Yeah.
And everybody screamed like gut-shot cougars.
Yeah.
Why the Democrats,
Yeah.
who when I grew up
Yeah.
were the liberals.
Right.
They were the anti-war folks.
Yeah.
They were the ones in '68.
Yeah. Stop Vietnam.
Yeah,
right?
stop
I wasn't
Vietnam.
born yet,
They
but
were
I heard
real.
it. Yeah,
They were real.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And Eugene McCarthy and some of the others that I followed and espoused and gave credence to.
Yeah.
Because I was draft age, right? I was 20 years old at the time. And it wasn't that. I didn't want to be in the war. I didn't want us in the war anyway. But,
Right.
But now we have liberals that are more warmongering even than the Republicans that include the Nixon bunch and the rest of these guys, Kissinger, that took years and years to get us out and cost us 50,000 lives. And of course, you got to remember, Lyndon's the guy that got us full blown into it. Right?
Yeah. In the beginning. Yeah.
But
yeah.
so Trump says he was going to get out of Afghanistan a couple times.
Yeah.
And he talked about it recently.
Yes. Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I watched some stuff the other day. The old Blackwater guy said, you know, what we could do is we could downscale 20,000 or so. We could keep 4,000 of our Blackwater guys, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
didn't say it quite that way.
Yeah.
And we could get by and hold them up. But he announced the Syrian thing. That was about a year or so ago. Oh boy, we're going to pull them out. Everybody went sideways.
Yeah.
And
But we're going to guard the oil. We got to stay and guard the.
so I think it was 28 guys.
28 guys came out.
And
yeah.
not only did they not take them out of Syria, they moved them to another part of
Yeah.
Syria.
Yeah.
And then let me add insult to injury. Then he announced that we were going to send a bunch of troops to Saudi Arabia. And guy said, well, gee, why are we sending them there? They don't, except for Yemen, except for the nasty illegal war in Yemen, they don't have anything going on. Why are you doing that? Oh, well, they're going to pay us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
we made
yeah.
mercenaries
Yeah.
out of our troops.
Yes, we did.
I don't know who volunteered to go there. I mean, why, if you were an American soldier and you signed up to do your constitutional duty,
Yeah.
why would you work as a mercenary in Saudi Arabia?
No, I can think of better places.
So
myself.
we're not out of Syria.
Nope, we're not.
We're not. We haven't done anything about Yemen. We haven't settled anything with North Korea.
No.
We haven't settled anything with Venezuela. They're still rattler and sabers. We haven't settled anything with Iran. We're in more trouble with China. We're having all kinds of stuff going on with the China Sea. We're protecting the poppies in Afghanistan. Iraq is now 17 years or so old, right? Mm-hmm. And we have spent something like $4 trillion.
Yeah.
The last I looked, it was over $4 trillion.
No, Trump will say 6, because it makes it sound good.
Well,
when
it might be
he's lying
6
about
now.
it, yeah.
Now, let me
Yeah.
add to that. People will say, well, he's winding it down. It's more civilized.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how that's not true. So I won't remember the exact numbers, okay?
Right.
But during the Bush, the little shrimpy
Shruby. W,
Bush,
yeah.
Dub,
Yeah.
he's not even a full W. I don't even know how he gets both
He's a
wings on.
V. He's a half of a W. Yeah.
They did something like 30, 35 bombs a day, average, over his 8 years.
Yeah.
Obama did something like 56 bombs
Yeah,
a
he
day.
upped it. He was, yeah.
Do you know what Trump's doing?
Tell me.
It's over 100. It's something like 120.
Yeah.
He's doing more on a daily basis
Yeah.
to bomb these people than Bush and Obama
Put together.
combined.
Yeah.
And you say, well, boy, I sure am glad we don't have Hillary. And I am glad we don't have Hillary.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm serious. There's something we have to say at this point
Yeah.
is, because I always get this. Whenever I beat up on Trump, it's like, well, would you rather have had Hillary? Is that what you did? Well, no, that's not it. It's not it. Hillary is probably the darkest, nastiest, most awful potential presidential candidate I can even imagine. And
Yes.
that's even putting her alongside LBJ or Nixon or FDR. I mean, she's horrible.
Yeah.
And Biden is a half-wit, okay? We're not promoting Biden.
No.
This is not a
This
Biden
this
show.
I'm a civil libertarian, in case anybody out there was wondering.
So am I. Yeah, so am I.
Okay, so
All right, so move on.
all right, so
Next topic.
So we're gonna keep moving. We can talk all night. Second Amendment. By God, we're gonna keep our Second Amendment.
All right, so
You know?
yeah, Trump alternately I think it's this side of his mouth
Yeah,
that promotes the Second Amendment,
yeah, half of
and it's this side of his mouth
the right brain. Second Amendment. Yeah,
that says, well, let's get rid of bump stocks. Let's not get them legislatively.
yeah.
Let's get them by executive order.
Yeah,
I'm
he
not
signed
even
it
sure.
himself, yeah.
I'm not even sure that's legal.
Well, and
By
what,
fiat,
Hey.
and there's no grandfather clause. So if I owned a bump stock, the next morning I was illegal theoretically. How does that work?
Well, I got news for everybody. Okay, Donald Trump knows what really happened in Las Vegas. Donald Trump was in Las Vegas when a damn shooting went down. He was in town. Okay, don't kid yourself. He knows what happened there, and that was the single event that said we need to get rid of bump stocks. Now, in my opinion, bump stocks scare the hell out of the establishment because we can shoot at them a little bit faster. Okay.
Well, you can take a semi-automatic weapon
Yes.
and
Essentially,
automate it.
Speed it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
automate it.
Yeah.
Well, of course, if you look at the Mandalay Bay stuff,
Yeah.
you learned a couple things, and I spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
I didn't do much visibility,
Yeah.
but item number one is that what's his name was probably dead hours before. Item number two
Patsy.
is
Yeah.
item number two is with all the weapons that were there, there were no belt feeds, right?
That they showed us.
Well,
Yeah,
they basically panned the entire room,
Yeah.
and they showed the guns that were supposedly being used at the windows,
Right.
and they also showed stacks and stacks and stacks of magazines.
Yeah.
and there were no belt feeds at all.
Yeah.
And yet there were recordings of
Absolutely. Yeah.
with 88 shells.
I mean,
in a
there was
row.
helicopter. I mean, I seen a guy the other day did a thing where he actually was able to do the flight patterns into, the airport there. Well, I lived in Las Vegas. I lived 2 miles from my first house I ever bought. Was 2 miles from Mandalay Bay. Know the area well. And there supposedly might have been people on the ground. I don't know. All I know is Donald Trump knows what happened in Mandalay Bay, everybody, okay?
Well,
and for him to sign that executive order, baloney.
Nobody's told us the truth.
Right.
And there wasn't a bump stock being used there.
Right.
And
Yeah.
even with what they showed us, there was no bump stock being
Yeah,
used there.
yeah.
And add to that the fact that I watched a guy, and I think he did very well. He basically said, all right, I've got a spot, I've got a shelling that's going on, and I can hear it ricocheting on the ground, and then I hear the sound.
Yes.
And the delay between those two tells me exactly how far away the guy is.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then if you triangulate
I've seen that myself,
you know where
yeah.
you know where they are.
Yeah.
And there were at least two different locations
yeah.
because the delay between the two,
Yeah.
one was 0.5 of a second, the other one's, I'm just making the numbers
Right,
up,
right.
was 0.2 of a second.
Yeah.
So they had to be different. And had there been somebody that recorded from a different angle, they could have triangulated it. And to the best of my knowledge, nobody's done this. But if you take this one and you've got timing of the shells and hitting,
Yep.
and you've got one over here, you draw two circles and guess where you are.
Yeah.
You know exactly
Where the shooter's at.
where the shooter is at.
Well, and we're going to get off this subject right because it's just stupid. This is a joke, but the sheriff would give briefings, okay, to the press.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. I mean, there was a bunch of
Yeah.
people got shot, and there was always some guy in a suit standing right next to him over here. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. Somebody in the press asked him a pretty dicey question. I can't remember the question, and that guy in the suit reached down in the sheriff's ear and he says, "You don't want to go there."
Yeah.
So that's all I needed to see, right? I didn't
Right.
need to see anymore.
All right. So the other closing comment I would make about Trump on Second Amendment, and this made me incredibly nervous, both as it relates to Trump's position on this, and also as it relates to any kind of constitutional understanding he might have. And at one point, what he said was, well, when it comes to the red flag laws, if we've got somebody that we think that somebody has complained about or is unstable, we'll take the guns first, and then he can figure out how to get his guns back.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
if there is a fundamental right constitutionally,
Yeah.
there are two principles. One is that you have a right to own guns.
Yep.
And the second one is you can't take them away without due process.
Absolutely right.
And both of them are there.
Yes.
And so you're violating two fundamental constitutional rights by that stupid statement.
Yes.
And it's the stupid statement.
It's bad.
It's
You should be scared of that, folks. No red flag laws.
It's the stupid
Yep.
statement that no Second Amendment promoter ought to ever utter.
Ever.
Ever utter.
Never. No.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
Okay, so if you guys watch Donald Trump's rally next week, I don't know if he's having one, but let's say he is. You could watch Tulsa. You could go to, I didn't watch the one in South Dakota, but every single rally I've ever watched, 10,000 people chant, "Lock her up, lock her up." What did he say when he did the debate with her? You ought to be in jail.
And what did he say a month after he got elected?
What did he say, Greg?
We don't want to go after the Clintons. They're nice
Oh,
people.
yeah, we're not doing that. Yeah.
Well, so if you have to telegraph what you really think, that would be sufficient, would it not?
Yeah.
All right, so let me fly through a couple of these.
Yes.
But we're not going to spend a lot of time.
We're not, no.
Let me spend a couple minutes on it.
Go for it.
Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, their houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath and affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and persons or things to be seized. We've got all kinds of stuff going on right now, including the whole gun business and the red flag laws, but we've got contact tracing, we've got personal invasions for vaccines, we've got house-to-house checks, we've got forced vaccinations, we've got Trump saying, I've got, 500 million vials of vaccine and syringes we're lining up, more than enough to do every single man, woman, and child. He's already given an executive order to activate the military to help get the vaccines out.
Yeah, what do we need the military for?
That violates posse comitatus, and he's going to say, this is for peaceful means.
Yeah.
And nothing could be more scary than that. We've got the NAFTA USMCA thing. Some people may think that was a good deal. It really didn't. It didn't work. And not only that, if you look at it closely, you'll find that it has not worked effectively nationally, because by paying Mexicans more and by forcing us to bring them in only if they've paid more, especially the Japanese car makers are actually doing more in Mexico than they were before.
Yeah.
And they're moving the plants to Mexico because they can get a worker, according to USMCA, for $16 versus $60 here, You've got reformation of the three-letter agencies. Yesterday or today, Trump complained about the fact that nothing was being done about all of these things that were going on, about investigations and Strzok and Mueller and Comey, and where is the DOJ and where's the FBI, and why isn't any of this happening? And what I would say to him is, Donald, here's a small mirror. Look at why this is not happening. Look at the person most responsible for why this is not happening.
Yeah.
Because he put Barr in, he put Wray in, he put the top of the DOJ. He didn't fire anybody. And in case the Q folks want to talk about this and said, well, we want to keep our friends close and our enemies closer, what I would say to you is, if you put Pompeo in right here, and you put Mnuchin in right here, and you put William Barr in right here, and you put Acosta, finally gone, right here, and you put Wilbur Ross, Commerce Secretary, the former banker that gave him a bailout, right here, and you put Jared Kushner right here, you have to say,
Jared's a Zionist, isn't
which one of those guys are our friends?
Yeah, well,
that's the deal.
Well, the question I want to ask is, did he really put him in, or did
somebody select him for him?
Absolutely right. Thank you.
All right. So one of the other things that I was really heartened by when Trump ran was that he said, by God, when Kennedy assassination happens, I'm going to give you the truth. You're going to finally get it. So 50 years comes up, And
I'm going to release
and
all that classified
They
information.
kicked that can down the road again.
No, I seen something about Martin Luther King where he had females in a hotel room doing things maybe sexually. We won't get too graphic here. And he was asking them to do things in maybe a lesbian fashion. And this is all CIA stuff, and you can go look it up. I read it, and I don't know why that was released in the Kennedy documents. But they did release a little bit of it.
They did?
Just not anything that was prudent to the... Yeah.
Well, and then the second part about it is you've got 9/11. And what Trump said in South Carolina when he ran for election, he turned over to Jebby and said, Jeb, wake up. Here's just a flag for you.
Yeah.
When I get elected, your brother W. Shrubby, I'm going to tell the American public what really happened on 9/11.
Yeah.
Because he knows.
He knows.
He knows.
He lived in New York. He knows damn well.
So what has happened since? Not only has he not told us a single thing, he's played the little Arab card a whole bunch of times. And his boy, William Barr, in the last couple of weeks, went in on the Saudi Arabian versus the citizens of 9/11 trial and told the judge, not only am I not going to give you the insider information about the Saudis, I'm not going to tell you why you cannot know.
Yeah.
And the judge said, well, I guess if that's what you say,
Yeah.
we won't find out.
Yeah.
All right, so
I'm upset, Greg.
All right,
folks, I'm off the Trump train. Okay, we're not done with the show. We were going to announce it at the end, but I'm already off. I jumped off. It went down. It's going down the tracks.
You've hit 17 bumps in the road.
You got something for me to eat here, Greg?
Yeah,
I got no transportation.
I actually do. The barbecue's right over here.
It's pomegranates.
You brought the beer, so we're good. So there are a couple things, and this is what took me from an encouraging situation. Some of you remember that in 18, I did all I could to rah-rah possible Republican involvement and the chance for us to hold the Senate and House. Now, I did that tongue-in-cheek. I did it knowing that I already had seen way too many flags about Trump. All right, so there's one final thing I want to talk about, and that has to do with the election reform. And we were told in 18, hey, blah, 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 this is all going to come to pass, right?
Yep.
And we're going to watch the 18 election, and it's going to be honest, and it's going to work right, and it's going to work better than the 16 election, and the people that actually get voted on are going to win, and this is going to follow through, and by God, we're going to prosecute anybody that violates.
We're going to clean it up.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, first of all, I watched Florida, Georgia, Texas, Arizona, and Montana that I can guarantee were all being played with.
Oh, yeah.
And you would think in little old Montana, which I know well, that they wouldn't play with it. But they did the same thing they did in Maricopa County in Arizona, and they did in a couple
counties
in Florida.
I'm going to stop you right now. I didn't know you were going to go there.
Yeah.
In the past month, I have received two things. One in the mail, asking me if I would like a mail-in ballot, if I need help filling it out and everything. No, I'm serious. And I called the number on there, and I said some things that I probably shouldn't have to them. And then I just got a text message, which if I wasn't recording on my phone, I'd pull it up right now. And it said, hey, I'm so-and-so, and because I have a Tucson phone number, and I'm working with X for the state to represent this and that. And I went and looked, and they were both left-wing Democrats, right? And all I want to know is if you have everything you need to be safe and everything. Didn't say anything about voting. And I knew exactly what it was. We'll help you get a mail-in ballot, and we'll help you fill it out. So you don't have to go out and get COVID, basically.
So let's back up to 18 for a moment, okay?
Yeah.
So you've got 5 states that I know of, and especially in Florida and in the southwest corner of Texas where, what was his name?
Oh, yeah. Beto. Yeah.
Beto.
Yes, El Paso.
And you've got parts of Georgia, but especially Broward County, Florida, and in Montana, and in Maricopa County in Arizona.
Yep, they've infiltrated.
And what they did is they let the entire evening of counting go, and they got to 1 o'clock in the morning, and they said, oh my goodness, the Senate race and the governor's race in Florida are too close to count.
Ah.
So Broward County is going to say, we need to finish counting.
Mm-hmm.
And in Arizona, they said, oh, McSally and
Cinema
Cinema are too close to count.
Yeah.
We've got part of Maricopa County that we need to just wait till tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And then they said in Missoula, Montana, in Missoula County, oh my goodness, Tester and whatever his name is are too close to count. And the other guy was leading. I can't remember even what his name is. And in all of those cases, they flipped, except in Florida. And the only reason they didn't flip in Florida is that Broward got count stuff and ballots. Georgia actually held too.
Mm-hmm.
But in 3 of those states, were those legitimate ballots being counted the next day?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you,
I don't think
it
so.
was highly suspect.
Yeah, they found
Highly
some.
suspect.
They found a couple boxes over here, a few over there, a truckload here and
So,
there. Yeah.
so the second part of this is okay. They did a nasty job of it. There were people like the election official in Broward County and others that obviously have violated the law. There were affidavits, signed, notarized affidavits saying that people saw ballots being stuffed in Broward County.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going to say to you then what happened. And
Yeah.
as best I know, the Broward County election official is still there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's 2 years later.
Folks, you have a problem out there. Any of you here in the United States, you have a serious problem. And Q, I got it. See here, Q. This is why I know this man, because he did the best damn job translating the early Q stuff of anybody out there on YouTube, as far as I'm concerned. And he figured it out a lot earlier than I did. But I've about had it with the 10 Days of Darkness, and on next week, and the boom that's coming in 2 weeks, and this, and look at the watch, and here's the pin. I'm done. It's over. Here, Donald Trump, Q, all you folks, unless something happens tomorrow, and you watch this video, I'm off your train. Greg, how about you?
Oh, well, I've been off the train for
Yeah.
a couple of years. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, the final straw, I looked at the appointments and I was appalled. I looked at the fact that he was pulling out an awful lot of Bushies and neocons and Kissingerites
Yep.
and Council of Foreign Relations and the rest of these guys. And I was appalled, but I said, all right, let's wait and see what the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
And when we got to election 18, it was, well, obviously nothing.
Nothing. Zero.
Nothing is going to happen. So,
That would be a 0, not a Q. Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
no tail on this zero.
No.
So we've got the COVID debacle. We've lost 40 million jobs. Trump stepped up into none of that. He put Fauci, who was a young protege of the New World Order
Absolutely.
under George H.W. Bush
Yep.
in 1988.
Absolutely.
Who was
Yeah.
his young up-and-coming hero in 88?
Oh, man.
Fauci and
Yeah,
Birx and the WHO. He said, oh, well,
Yeah.
we defunded WHO. I will guarantee you that they either continued to fund WHO and nothing has changed, or they changed the account and they put it back through something else.
That's what they're going to do.
And then you've got the CDC.
It's all optics, folks.
And-
It's all
and
it's
the
all
fun-
there to keep you thinking rah and just sitting back and having a beer and enjoying it. And that way you're not doing anything. You're not standing up. You're not mobilizing as a group of people. You're not putting on a yellow vest, as Dr. Frog, would like. He's actually got a new idea that maybe we'll talk about in the future. But
So the whole thing about
wake up is what I'm saying. Yeah.
one of the questions you asked me before we started this video is, what is this business? Why did they put Trump in instead of Hillary if
Yeah.
we're going to get the same result? And my answer is, and it fits into the Q narrative, it fits into the Trump narrative, it fits into all of the Trump followers, that are legitimate people trying to see this country turn around, trying
Absolutely,
to see
yeah.
it get better. Hopeful.
It was us.
patriots,
I mean, we want it to
hopeful
get better.
patriots that
Damn
wanted
it.
to get
I mean,
it better.
come on, man.
And so
Right.
what Trump was able to do, and he did it with marketing, is he took a look and said, well, these people want to hear about immigration. They want to hear about a balanced budget. They want to hear about going after the swamp and the deep state. They want to hear us working on downsizing the military. They want to see us reactivating the military, which in fact they did. The TPP went out. That was good. So he actually did a couple of things that were good. I'm not sure that people, that his bunch didn't make out like a bandit because of it.
Yeah.
And you take the Golan Heights. He just authorized Israel to take over the Golan Heights. Why? Oil. And who's in there? Genie Energy. And who's invested in Genie Energy? Well, everybody from Dick Cheney to Jared Kushner.
Oh, Jared, yeah. Keep your eyes on Jared, folks. Okay, you want to talk about a problem? That might be your problem.
So now we've got the COVID debacle, which is a whole different deal, and then we've got BLM, Black Lives Matter, and Trump squawked and said, "Oh, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that." What has he done?
Yeah,
none, zero.
Yeah.
And, there's a place where you say when there's 6,000 or 8,000 people in downtown Seattle, and I lived 2.5 miles from that Chaz Center, right?
I'm from Washington
Walk the
State.
streets. Walk the streets.
Yeah, I know you.
Know it well.
Yeah.
And the legitimate people that lived in second and third story apartments and small houses and the rest of that, it's a really nice area of town.
Yeah.
But it's not a big money part, right?
Right.
And,
workers. Yeah.
And when those people were surrounded and had no right to come and go and had to work through them, and the mayor is saying we're having a summer of love. How does that work? When they're burning the precinct building, how does that work? How does that fit into the American model? So, and Trump says what Trump should have done is to say to the idiot governor of Washington, by the way, Inslee, what a total smeghead idiot. I think he was a congressman when I was there.
I can get my mom on the phone if you want to know some more about him.
Good.
My mom lives 18 miles south of Spokane, and the people in eastern Washington do not like him, okay? They can't do it. King County votes for that state. It's like Maricopa and Phoenix, poor people in the rest of the state.
Total smeghead idiot.
Yeah, he shouldn't be breathing air that we could breathe.
He wasn't smart enough to be a congressman.
No. And he was running for president.
And if he can tie his shoes, I give him credit.
Yeah.
And he did nothing, and the mayor did nothing, and Trump could have said to either of them, if you don't clean this up, if you don't have an action plan, I am not going to allow 6,000 citizens to be terrorized.
Yeah.
I'm not. We're going to go in there.
Yeah.
There are fundamental, and there probably were federal buildings that needed to be protected and a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
All right, so have we mangled this?
We mangled it. I'm off the Trump train. I like what the man said in the beginning. I like his bravado. I like that he swears a little bit because I'm a human being. I think we all say a swear word now and again. He resonated with me as a down to earth guy, and he hasn't done squat, folks. He hasn't. And we're not Biden people by any means, but it's just the next one up as well it is with these people.
When he said, I've done more than any president in my 4-year term.
No.
You don't agree with that?
And stop believing it, okay? Please.
Oh,
okay?
my goodness.
We're in a predicament. We're in a conundrum, okay?
Yeah.
Biden is my God, 47 years. He hadn't done anything, and now he's going to do. No, he's not.
Well, not only that, but not only does he fondle young girls, which makes my skin crawl.
Yeah, it's bad.
Makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
And if he does that at swearing in ceremonies, what does he do behind closed doors?
Well, I've heard stories. Yeah.
And he's 78 years old. His little brain must have a switch in the back of it that turns on for 2 hours.
Yeah, maybe they gave him some adrenochrome. I don't know, but we got each other, folks. If we don't mobilize, people like Greg and I and folks that are listening to us, and I know there's a lot of like-minded folks out there because he's got a lot of followers. I've got 140. But if we don't get together and do something, nothing's going to happen. Zero.
So let me remind you one more time why I came on with the channel to start with. And if you take a look at my channel, the background channel of my channel, if you go to the channel, it says Unite 10 Million. And I'm going to tell you that I'm still humming the same song. And why am I humming the same song? Because if we united 10 million people and we spoke as loudly as the Karens, the liberals, the blue ones, the freaked out, the sheeple with the masks and the rest of that. If we stood up now and said no,
Yep.
10 million of us could stop this thing.
Yep.
And I know there are people that believe that we're all done, that we're past done. I don't think we have to be violent. I don't think we have to take up arms, at least not now.
Hope not.
But there is a way to respond. And what I would say to you, those citizens among you who feel as I do, and as Jeff does, when you start to make as much noise as the liberals screaming for us all to have masks on, as the liberals screaming to shut this down more, as the politicians, governors and senators and state legislatures, Republican and Democrat, that are doing more and more to take away our rights, when you start making as much noise as they are, I will say that you and I have patriotically responded in a way that actually holds space.
Yep.
And one of the things I would suggest is we put the vest back on. If you're going to wear a mask, wear a vest.
Wear a vest.
And if you wear a vest, I have a little thing that said, "Sheeple wear masks."
On the vest.
On the vest.
Got to get one.
And we'll put it front and back.
Yeah. But we can sell them on the channel.
And when you walk through Safeway with your stupid mask half on or below your nose, and it says "Sheeple wear masks," you will at least have made a statement.
Yep.
Isn't it time for us to make a statement?
It is,
So,
Greg. It really
on
is.
that,
Yeah. Hey,
I'm good for
like
the
I
day.
say at the end of all the Sedona Creek Talk videos is we're just here trying to figure out what in the hell is going on. Thank you, guys.